This is the video lecture for Goodbye Columbus. I know that I asked you to read the entire novella and watch the movie, so this is going to be a relatively short video lecture. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, well, here we go. Here's the movie poster. Kind of very interesting. Every father's daughter is a virgin. Kind of curious how they approach that marketing strategy. A little trivia, this is Michael Myers on the left. It actually is the only movie that he starred in. After this, he went to medical school, became a physician, and he specialized in drug addiction and actually started with a few other people a boutique recovery center for movie stars who were addicted to drugs. And here is Richard Benjamin, of course. And I actually have a story to share about Richard Benjamin, a personal story. So probably about 20 years ago, I was with my wife. I think we were married by then. At any rate, we were in Los Angeles, where I grew up, and we were with my sister, my younger sister. And we were in my sister's car, and we went to a car wash. And we're sitting there waiting for the car to kind of go through the car wash, and my sister Marla sees someone. She actually sees Richard Benjamin, and she goes over and she says hello. Now, my sister teaches high school math and English, or math and science, and she actually had been tutoring Richard Benjamin's son, I think it was, maybe daughter, in math and science for a couple years. And so she, of course, went over to say hi. And she didn't introduce my wife and I to Richard Benjamin. And to this day, we still bug her about it, because it wasn't until after he kind of drove away that we realized who he was, when my sister came over and said, "Oh yeah, that was Richard Benjamin." So we're still very, very upset. This is a clip from the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. So you're probably wondering, why are we looking at the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour? So one of the things that I like doing with these films is highlighting some aspects of the film that you really might not know about at all. And the aspect here is the music. So the film for Goodbye Columbus, or the music for Goodbye Columbus, was done by a musical group called The Association that was very, very popular in the 1960s. And they wrote 3 or 4 songs for the film, and then someone else filled in all of the instrumental music with instrumental music that sounded very much like The Association. So this is actually a fairly long video. It's about 8 minutes long. The first 5 minutes are the Smothers Brothers kind of doing their comedy bit. You should actually look up the Smothers Brothers and become familiar with them. They were a very cutting-edge comedy team that eventually was canceled. Their show was canceled after just a few years because they were so daring in how they pushed the censors and the kind of things that they would do on the show. So the reason why I'm showing this, though, is because the group, The Association, is on this episode of the Smothers Brothers, and the leader, one of the leaders of the Smothers Brothers, is the Association, is this guy Larry Ramos, who is Filipino descent, born in Hawaii, but he's really the big face of this musical group, and he doesn't look like anybody else in a musical group in the 1960s. And the beginning of this is when the Smothers Brothers kind of do their comedy bit with the people in the group, and it's a little funny in a 1960s old kind of way about what they do with Larry Ramos, and then you can listen to the Association play one of their most popular songs. And I apologize that the quality of this video is so poor.
Before we have the association sing again, we'd like you to meet them individually and perhaps even get a glimpse into the personalities that it takes to make up such a group.
Yes, a glimpse into the minds and talents of this wonderful group. 6 young artists who have created their own style with no help from anyone. They've done it all by themselves, right out of their head.
Right up their own little heads. And in a group like the association, the one member that is always in the background is the drummer. So we thought we'd try to remedy that tonight by introducing to you the drummer first.
The drummer must be constantly alert to rhythm and tempo. He must be quick and able to adjust, for it is his mind that controls the very pulse of the group. The association's drummer was raised on a pig farm in Montana. So the group, the association group, lovingly calls him the Pig. So meet Ted Bushell Jr.
I am Ted the Pig. I play the drums and hum vocal backgrounds. These are my drums. These are my hums. I am a hum drummer.
How about that?
Very versatile, actually. Now here's Jim Yester, who sings the high voice in the group and is also the rhythm guitarist.
That's right. You know, Jim also does a great imitation of Oliver Hardy. And would you do that for us?
He does?
Yes, he does. Would you do that, Jim?
I certainly will. No, he said, that's not Oliver Hardy, that's Stan Laurel.
No, it's not, Dickie.
Yes,
That's
it is. I know Stan
No, it's
Laurel.
Oliver Hardy. Stan Laurel does this. I certainly will.
That's right.
So, Jim, let's do our imitation of Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy together. Love Laurel and Hardy. Ladies and gentlemen, our imitation of Laurel and Hardy.
Okay, which one's Stan Laurel and which one's Oliver Hardy?
Well, he is.
What else can you do?
Well, I honk.
You do what?
I honk.
You honk?
How about that? We'd like you to meet now Larry Ramos. Buenos dias, senor.
No. Tommy, that's bad Spanish. Besides, he's not Mexican. He's from Hawaii. He's Hawaiian.
Aloha.
Aloha!
Thank you. That's very nice. What kind of flowers are these?
Paluna nui. In Hawaiian, that means the delicate tiger blossom of the rainbow maiden.
Oh, that's wonderful. They don't grow these in they don't grow these in California or anything like that, do they?
Oh, yes. Here they're called poison ivy.
Now let's move over to Brian Cole. Brian is the bass player.
The bass player, as you know, is the lowest member and musician in the band. That goes for all groups, even mine. That's very funny, Tom. There you go. Brian, we'd like to ask you something. Do you think, or what should I say, how do I phrase this? What do you think, what future does the association have?
Well, I think it's too directly bound to its own anguish to be anything other than a cry of total negation, carrying within itself the seeds of its own destruction.
So much for Brian.
How about that?
Yeah. Now let's move over to Russ Jaguar.
Russ?
Yes.
You know, I've known Russ for a long time, but you look different. What is it that makes you look different? Because you know we've seen each other a lot of times, you know. And
So he used to have a mustache.
what's that under your nose then?
This? Well, this is a house plant. I water it every day, you know.
Why are you growing a house plant there?
Well, if I left it home, you know, no one would water it.
Good point.
How about that? Yeah. Well, now it's time to move along our merry way to Terry. Now, Terry Kirkman is the tallest singer in the group, and he plays harmonica, recorder, and the flugelhorn.
Terry was the one that also wrote the hit song Cherries.
That's right.
No, the association.
It's not Cherries. Cherish.
Cherry?
Cherish, not cherries.
I thought it was Cherries.
No, it's cherish time.
It is? Well, that sure changes the whole meaning of the song.
Yeah, it does. Never mind that, Terry, but why don't you tell us how you picked out the name of the association?
Actually, Dick, we didn't pick the name. We were practicing one day, and the association knocked on the door, and we answered the door, and it was us.
How about that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, now you know what it takes to make up a group like the association.
So here they are, the association singing their new hit, Wendy.
Speaking out from under us, they're waiting, calling the name, the fighter that is. And then down in the hallway, everyone knows Wendy.
So I hope that prods you to check out more of the association's music. I think it's interesting that that music was chosen for the film. It's very, I don't know, maybe it's just looking back on it. It seems very kind of mellow music, not a lot of conflict in the music, very upbeat. And yet when you take a look at the story of Goodbye Columbus, it also seems like on the surface everything is fine, but there's incredible tension below the surface. Which gets us to the review of the novel when it came out in 1959. And this appeared in the New York Times. And this is just a portion of the review. It says, although Brenda's family has moved up from Newark economically by virtue of Mr. Potamkin's kitchen and bathroom sinks enterprise, and Neil has made the migration intellectually, they are all of them refugees haunted by echoes from a not-to-be-buried past, unsatisfied by the too tasty viands of a sterile hedonism, and confused by the uncertainties of the future. Characteristically, at the wedding of Brenda's brother, Neil and Brenda are further apart than ever, and in the gray confusion of early morning, Neil sees some of the Potamkins from the back, round-shouldered, burdened, child-carrying, like people fleeing a captured city. And so I think it really speaks to this superficiality that seems to be at the surface of the film that really hides incredible conflict underneath. Not only conflict between people, excuse me, but also conflict within the individual characters themselves. And part of that conflict also comes from the way that the Jewish community perceived the novella and the film. And the Jewish community saw this as something that was degrading and demeaning to the Jewish community because it highlighted the superficiality and it highlighted the assimilation that a lot of the Jewish community was not only experiencing, but for many, many decades had tried to achieve. Certainly, if you think back to Hester Street and the drive for assimilation that Jake has, you see the same kind of things here in Goodbye Columbus. And so what we have here now on the screen is a comedy album called The Jewish American Princess. And the stereotype of the Jewish American princess was very active starting up in the late 1970s. It reached its height in the late 1970s. But it was certainly something that existed before that. So this album was made in 1971, and the kind of spoiled nature of Jewish girls in particular is what created the stereotype of the Jewish American princess or the Jap. I don't think we hear this phrase so much today, but like I said, it was a stereotype that emerged after World War II, reached its height in the late 1970s and in the early 1980s. And the stereotype is of spoiled brats, materialistic and selfish, who come from a pampered and a wealthy background, which seems to describe Brenda very much. And the prominence of this stereotype in the 1970s was due to pressures on the Jewish middle class to maintain a visibly affluent lifestyle as the post-World War II affluence declined. And so we see that in Brenda's father's pursuit of success. And as the review in the New York Times states, he never really gets past that. You know, he has the money, but he's still stuck to some extent in the in his past and his prior existence. And I think you really see that vividly depicted in the wedding banquet scene, especially that part of the film where they're all just lined up at the table grabbing food. It really is quite a contrast. And that's the end of this video lecture.